Hello, everybody. I'm Joyce Bock, and I'm going to be doing my very first live interview with the astronomer Marc D'Antonio from Connecticut. And so, who is Marc D'Antonio? He has a degree in astronomy, and he's also the Mutual UFO Networks, or MUFON's, chief photo video analyst. He's also the host of SkyTour Radio on KGRA and host and creator of SkyTour LiveStream on YouTube, where people can go and watch live the beautiful deep sky objects and watch them materialize before your very eyes in mere seconds, courtesy of the SkyTour LiveStream remote observatories and their research technology. Marc is also the CEO of FX Models, a model making and visual special effects company specializing in digital physical models and organic special effects in the film industry. He has an extensive work history in the film and television arena, appearing regularly on a number of networks and television series shows. He can be seen regularly on NASA's Unexplained Files on the Discovery Channel, What on Earth on the Science Channel, The Proof is Out There on the History Channel, and In Search Of, hosted by Zachary Quinto, Contact on Discovery, and a variety of other shows. His efforts creating the aerial anomaly detection system, formerly called UFO TOG2, a remote system to detect advanced propulsion at play in our local universe with Academy Award winner Douglas Trumbull, promises to bring ufology into the 21st century. Marc has a book, The Populated Universe, available on Amazon worldwide. In the book, he has taken his astronomy degree and focus on exoplanet research and explores the scientific search for extraterrestrial life, and makes the case for what he believes is the predisposition of the universe to the creation of the building blocks of life and perhaps life itself. He is characterized as the voice of science reason, yet fully expects alien intelligence is out there and possibly even here visiting us on Earth. I'm going to be talking with Marc actually about a significant paranormal experience, or a very, very personal experience he had, which he can't explain. And it's an abduction experience. It was very physical for him, just as physical as if you and I were in the same room. But the details of it, just seemed really not an ordinary experience that you and I could explain. So I'm really, really excited to hear about it. And I hope you can join us, and perhaps we can all maybe give our own thoughts about what it could be. Or maybe you may have had a similar experience.
Potential for what that means. Okay, there's a lot of definitions to what the word haunted means. But to me, the word haunted just means not yet explainable by science.
Yes.
Okay, I think that someday it's going to be, and I want to be on the leading edge of that if it's going to happen within my lifetime, or multiple lifetimes, as it may have turned out.
Yes.
So I don't know, but the thing is, when I was at this particular house, the other two cast members were talking, and all of a sudden, I was frozen in place on the floor and I couldn't move. And I had said the name of the person that they said was in the house. And I said, who's so-and-so? Okay. And they looked at me like the owners of the house looked at me like, don't say that name. You know, they didn't say those words. They just went like this, like, what are you saying? And then I went to move and I was now frozen to the floor. I'm like, what the heck? Come on. What's going on here? And I went to move again and I couldn't move. And I'm looking down going, is something blocking me? And I said it on, and it's going to be on camera. You're going to see it. I said, I can't move. I can't move. And I'm getting like this weird electrical charge through my whole body. And I have no idea what's going on right now. And I was actually truly astonished. I mean, it's hard to do that to someone who has science as their basis, right? You know, you can't astonish these guys, right? They just ignore and say, oh, well, it's something we don't understand, whatever, we'll figure it out. Okay, it's all coincidence. I hate that phrase. Okay, but then these guys came over, and when we talked more about the person that was supposedly in the house, just like that, I was able to move again.
Oh God.
You know, and I have no idea what that was. And then in an upstairs room in that house while we're doing this again, this is also on camera and we'll be seeing something. I don't want to, you know, I'm there as a science guy. And when you start talking about hauntings, it's sort of like, that's not my thing. You go do that. I mean, but I was in the middle of it. So I was talking about what happened in this particular room. And the owner of the house said, well, in this room, we've had people hear things, see things, whatever. And right at the moment, in my head, I was thinking, I'm not sure. Like, how do we prove any of this? And all of a sudden, a hand went right around my throat and started squeezing, and I couldn't breathe. And I said that on camera. I'm going, I can't breathe. And it's a lot more convincing than that because I really couldn't. I was struggling to breathe. And they looked at me and they said, what's going on? Are you okay? I said, I'm being squeezed. My throat is being squeezed right now. I'm not prone to flight of fancy. I'm an astronomer. I don't go into that stuff, right? Well, this hand was around my throat squeezing. And as I started to move out of the room, as soon as I walked through the threshold of that door, it went away just like that. Wow. And I said, whoa. I said, it's gone. It's gone. And the other guy in the room was Ben Hansen. I don't know if you know who Ben Hansen is. Yeah. He was a co-host with me. And the woman was a woman named Melissa. And I had no idea what was going on. And Ben says, are you okay now? I said, yeah. And he says, you want to come back in? I go, yeah, I really do. Because now I'm mad. I'm going to confront this thing, right? I walk back in. As soon as I walk through the door, wham, a hand goes around my throat. And it starts squeezing again. I was like, what is this? You know, so, and this is kind of what tonight is about. And well, for me, what today is for you.
You've had experience, like you've actually experienced it. And I think that makes a difference.
Well, it makes me, it sends chills, you know, through me when I talk about it, right? Because it's just very odd.
Wow. You're a CEO at FX Models, so doing miniature settings on the movie setting models, miniature models for movies.
Yeah. It's like model work for movies and television commercials, things like that. And it's a company I started just because I want to continue making models and get paid for it.
Oh, right. Yep. So it was a hobby, right?
Yeah, and then it became the business, you know, as sometimes things happen, you know.
Yeah.
And that was a good thing because that's all I do now.
Yeah, okay. And you're an inventor of the aerial anomaly detection system. What's that?
Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with a gentleman named Douglas Trumbull. In science fiction, anyone who likes science fiction, for instance, will know who Douglas Trumbull is. He's he's a special effects, visual effects maven. He's like the master of illusion. Okay, he's the master at suspending disbelief when it comes to these things. And he worked with Stanley Kubrick on 2001. Okay, he's an older fella. Okay, and he worked with Steven Spielberg on Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Ridley Scott, Blade Runner. These are all people that are his very good friends. You know, Jim Cameron, Ang Lee, all these people, and they come to him for the impossible made possible. And he has a studio not an hour from here And I was doing a show on National Public Radio, NPR. And NPR is, I don't know if you have NPR down there. You maybe you do. I don't know. But NPR is a big network that, that really caters to people that want to know what's going on and hear opinions. Well, I was doing a show about the X-Files of where I live, Connecticut, this state in the United States. And um, the host later on said to me, you gotta get on the show next time with Douglas Trumbull. And I went, what? Well, I didn't even know that. Why? He's a UFO hunter, just like you. What? And I went home and wrote him an email right away, not thinking he'll ever see it. Okay, well, hey, Doug, my name is Marc D'Antonio. I have this, blah, 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 blah. I hear you're a UFO hunter. I am too, blah, blah, blah. And I wrote him about a paragraph and said, I don't want to be too wordy because I don't know what time he has. Probably has no time. Half hour later, I get a 2-page email from him. And I was like, I'm never going to delete this email in my life. This was like my hero. Okay. He said, went to your website. Excellent in every respect. I think we can use you right now. We're doing a project right now that needs your expertise. I'm like, huh? And I immediately started panic. Oh no, I'm actually going to meet the guy. And long story short, we met. We did the project. It was actually a commercial for the burger joint called Burger King. And we since went on to do other commercials for Coors beer. And the last one we did together was for the new iPad Pro. And it was for Apple and it was for the Super Bowl. So it was kind of cool to do that. No one wanted to tell us what it was, but we figured it out about 3/4 of the way through. We said, this is the Apple project, isn't it? And Doug's like, I can't tell you, but he winked. He's like, yeah, that's what it was. So we had a really good time. It was a really good project. And on that project, I brought my youngest son in, who is also a film guy. He has a YouTube channel with 80 million hits. He's got a channel up there, literally 80 million, maybe more now. And he and his 2 friends did these. They do their own videos and put them up. And he got to work on this iPad Pro commercial before going into college. When he wrote the entrance essay to college, they said, you did this commercial. Why do you want to come to this school? He says, because I want to get into film production. And they said, you're coming in, let's go. And he also brought in his friend who also worked on that production with him that he had. So Doug is, in other words, had a lot of influence on my family. He's been a wonderful guy, and so together, Doug and I have designed this system that will be a platter, just about this big, in non-metric terms, it's 24 inches in diameter. And it has instrumentation on it that will watch the sky with cameras, and anything that moves, it's going to pick it up. And it's going to report it to us, right to our cell phones in our pockets, okay, via GPS satellites. We're going to utilize a technique where we can bounce off GPS satellites and then be able to see and hear everything that this unit saw. So it's going to look for anomalies, and it's going to be able to triangulate the heights and altitudes, because there'll be more than one set up near each other. And we're going to get a lot of data from it. And so that's the aerial anomaly detection system you're talking about, the AADS. We used to call it UFOTOG, UFO-TOG, okay, a combination of UFO and photog, which is what photographers were called years and years ago, Doug's era. And I told him, if you have UFO in the name, you're not going to get any funding. We need to change this thing to something else. So we called it Aerial Anomaly Detection System. And we still don't have funding yet, but we're working on it. Okay. And so we get together. We just did a movie about Nikola Tesla together, and we're going to be doing some of the funds from that are going toward building other stuff we need for the former UFOTOG project. So, first of all, I got to apologize.
Amazing.
Just to let you know, you're going to hear me clear my throat a lot, and that's because of what I've been through. I actually have a vocal cord that's paralyzed, and you'll see why that's not a real big deal to me, considering everything else. So it's sort of in the way all the time, and so it gives me a lot deeper voice. I mean, now we have a voice for radio. Hey, I never did. I always was up here. I had a higher voice, but now I have a nice deep voice, right? Because without that vocal cord, my voice goes deeper, so so I apologize ahead of time for all the throat clearing. It really bothers me, and I know that it bothers you.
No, that's fine.
If I can mute, I will.
Yeah. So Mark, I met you in Phoenix in 2019 with a group of Australians, and we attended the UFO conference there. And I remember pretty late at night, we were in the lobby, and there was a group of us surrounding you, and you were telling us your intriguing true story of a kidnapping that happened to you, which was very physical. So I'd love for you to tell us that right from the beginning.
Okay. I mean, I'd be happy to. And I got to tell you, being an astronomer, okay, I've worked in observatories. I look at the night sky. I do science, right? Well, when you have something happen that you don't understand, it really throws you it throws you for a loop. You don't know which end is up. And that's kind of what happened to me. I don't know where my science went in the face of this unexplained, but that's what it was. It was just science that we don't know yet is how I had to explain it to myself, and we talk about this, and like when I talk about in particular the events that occurred, I have to kind of go back and say how that all happened. 5.5 years ago, I got an infection in my heart valves, 2 heart valves. Not a good thing. And so to fix it, they had to do emergency surgery because otherwise I'd be dead, So they stuck me in an ambulance and they drove me 120 miles to New York City, where I had the surgery literally 2 days later. And the guy that did the surgery it just so happened, the only person in the country that could do that surgery was 120 miles from me. So that was a good thing. It meant that I was going to be in good hands, I figured, right? So when I got there, we met, we talked. He's a really, really nice guy. Okay. Paul Stelzer is his name. And so he prepped me for what was going to happen. And I told him, look, I'm a science guy. You're a science guy from your side of things. Don't pull any punches. If anything goes wrong, don't hide it. Just tell me. Okay. And I'll be all right. Don't worry about it. And he promised, we actually shook on it actually. And so that night I was trying to figure out, everything that was about to happen. And I was going through, okay, what is it that makes us alive? Why are we having such problems? And I thought, we have a pretty good idea of what life really means. It's the condition that distinguishes us from animals, plants, and inorganic matter, right? So life has the capacity to grow. It has the capability to reproduce, and it has the functional activity, right? It does things, right? And it directed things. Well, that's what life is. And the other thing is that I couldn't escape in my mind was that it's also continual change preceding death, right? You're always changing until you don't change anymore and you finish. You're done with your biological journey. So that's what I was thinking about, which is kind of weird, I know, but I don't know. Somehow life-threatening surgery has a way of making you think of these things. And we also, as science folks, we understand all of that to a point. We don't know what life, quote unquote, is, but we do know is that we do not understand what death is. Up to that entry point, that's it. Beyond that, it's a black box. No one's ever come back and say, "Hey, it's not so bad in here. Hey, come on in." Well, wait, don't come in. Okay, but no one's ever come back to say that to us. So we don't know. But my mind is open to the possibilities. I've had some strange experiences, like we'll talk about, and I've done a lot of very interesting stuff, and the first experience I ever had, which showed me that there was something going on I didn't understand, was when I had to put down my dogs. I had these beautiful greyhound dogs. We got them from the racetrack. They were washed out of racing and they were going to be killed. And because that's what they do. They euthanize nearly 17,000 in Australia, and here they euthanize 10,000 in the US, each year. So I took two and I renamed them Tycho and Kepler, astronomical contemporaries. And they were, and so they were wonderful for many years, almost a decade apiece. But when the male ended up having congestive heart failure, it was time to think about doing the proper thing, which I didn't want to do. We rescued him several times before actually doing that final deed to put him down. And, they're very gregarious, animals, and you just know there's more going on inside their little heads. So I ended up, going with him, and I was actually sitting on a rolling chair and leaning over. It was low to the ground like a stool, and leaning over and cradling his head as they administered the final, barbiturate or whatever it was that killed him. It's basically killing the dog, right? Let's be honest. Never agreed with it, but life is tough. So at the moment that happened, I was cradling his head, and all of a sudden, I had an electric charge hit me straight in my chest, and I'm leaning over now in sort of an awkward angle. If I go anywhere, I'm going to fall forward. Instead, I was blown backwards into the wall about 6 feet away in this tile-floored room. And the doctor and the attendants, they saw this happen, and they're going, "Whoa, what just happened?" And I said, I must have rolled down an electrical outlet. I did. I thought that I rolled a wheel on the outlet. I looked down on the floor to see if there was an outlet in the floor, and there wasn't. I went, "There's no electrical outlet on the floor." And he goes, "That's right." I said, "I got hit with electricity in my chest." And I'd taken my pulse because my heart's now racing. I'm like, "What's going on?" And they were like, "Wow, I don't know." I said, "I think it was the dog. I think it was the energy of this beautiful animal went racing through me." And he said, "Well, that's an interesting possibility." Okay, but he didn't have as open a mind, I don't think. And then a year later, I had to put the female down. And so I brought him back to the same vet. And this time I was on my knees on the ground, cradling her. And I had actually totally forgotten about the previous episode. I don't know why. And I was cradling her as they administered the shot. And this time, it happened again. And as soon as it happened, as I'm feeling it hit my chest, I go, "Oh, this again. Now I remember," kind of a thing. I was lifted off my knees and thrown backwards. And this time, I landed in the waiting arms of a veterinary technician. And she looked at me with like this feared look in her eyes and says, "I remember last year I was here." And that's why she went behind me, to catch me in case it happened. Well, I don't know what that was about. I don't know what caused it, but I felt this, it was like a string of electricity. That's all I can say. Like a string of electricity went straight through my chest and right out my back. And it was like lightning, but not. It was extended time, like zoom, like that, kind of like Zoom. So that was a weird thing for me. And I didn't know what had happened, So now, okay, fast forward now. I've actually, when I got the infection in my heart valves, I ended up, trying to get rid of it with an IV line that I had to give myself IV every day. That was really, really, painful and crappy to have to do, but I did. But the heart was damaged by this bacteria, and so they had to repair the valves, or else I wasn't going to survive a week. So down I went to Mount Sinai Hospital in Manhattan, and the surgeon said, "Hey, we're gonna do this. It's gonna be on Memorial Day, 2015 is when they're gonna do it." So that's the day that there's a skeleton staff It was like a post-apocalyptic pre-op ward. Absolutely no lights on. There was only one bed in there with a patient. It was me. And only one light on. It was the one over my bed. Everything was dark. I felt like I was forgotten. It was literally that way because I woke up there. Because I was asleep. They wheeled me down and they put me there. And I woke up there. I'm like, where am I? And it was like 30 minutes later, the surgeon comes walking out. He goes, hey, you're awake. I go, yeah. He goes, we're almost ready for you. Okay. So they were setting up the operating room. Trust me, that was interesting because it was like, waking up. It was almost like the Walking Dead, when, what's his name there? Lincoln wakes up. Is it Lincoln something or other? Wakes up in the hospital and gets up and sees that there's just chaos out there. There's nobody anywhere. That's kind of how it felt. I was like, wow. And I knew that wasn't really what it was, but I was just like, oh, this is pretty crazy. So when when he came out, he basically said, okay, we're going to take you in. And that's where my memories ended of the surgical procedure, because anesthesia has a way of wiping out the previous time to a certain amount, like 30 minutes or even an hour, whatever. And that was gone. But what happened next was I was being wheeled out of the hospital. And I was as awake as I am right now, looking at you guys, okay, as awake. And now I found out later my heart was stopped for 3.5 hours while they did the process. And I was on a cliff looking out over things. I can, should I share my screen so I can actually show you what? Okay, so now you should be able to see, you see this, you see my cursor as well?
Yes.
Okay. So from the point where he said, we're almost ready for you, I don't know how much time elapsed, but that memory's gone forever. I can't remember it. But suddenly I was being wheeled outside the hospital, and it was on a road like you see here. This was what it was like, okay? And I was really concerned because I'm on a stretcher. I can't move. I'm a rag doll. I can only use my eyes. I can't turn my head. I can't do any of that. Nothing works. So I'm looking and trying to figure out what are they doing. And I actually yelled out to these guys, who are you? What are you doing? I need to be in this surgery. Where the hell are you taking me? And I started swearing at these guys. I don't mind telling you. And they said nothing. And the next thing I know, I'm in New Mexico. And how do I know it's New Mexico? I can't tell you that. I just know that it was. And there was this young kid who came up to me. He was definitely a Native American. He didn't smile. He was very furtive gaze, lips pursed up, and really just looks really like angry. And he was, like I said, maybe 24 or whatever. But he didn't smile, and he seemed unpleasant, and I was like, what is going on? And I'm thinking, did they kidnap me to like harvest my kidneys and sell them on the black market? I literally was thinking that. I was awake as I am here, guys. This awake, just like this. And I didn't know what it was. I knew that he was Navajo. I don't know how I knew that, but these are the feathers he had in his hair, and they went down the two sides of his face like this. Okay. And they're the ones like the ones on the right, the little black and white ones. Okay. Those were the guys. Those two, they were just curled down like this down the side of his face. And then they kind of terminated in a little tuft down below on each side. I was observing because I thought if I could escape, I had to tell police what he looked like. That's why I was doing it. So I had no idea what to expect. And they took me to a house that looked kind of like this one. If you take out these trees in the front and put them just behind, this is almost exactly what that house looked like. All right, kind of like this. And by the way, just so you know, I dug up these images afterwards to try and bring something that looks close to what I experienced to you guys. Now, when they brought me into this house, they brought me down to this root cellar. This almost the basement of the house with a dirt floor, and I was studying everything. There was peat moss in bags behind me, and they leaned me up against this. In front of me, there were there was carts and terracotta pots, which I'll mention, and it was a basement. It kind of resembled that, and there was this female there too, a female Native American who I never saw her face. She never ever came into my line of sight. She always stayed just outside. It's almost like she knew how far to go before I would not be able to, before I could see her. So it was really annoying. I was trying to look at her. I kept trying to turn my head and it wouldn't move, you know? So this is kind of what it looked like. It was sort of a basement like this. And there was a garage door on the right-hand side, sort of like you see here. And I was kind of down to the lower right here, kind of like that. And I was leaning against bags, kind of like this, all right? Peat moss, okay? And I didn't know why they had me there, but there were these nursery carts exactly like this one. This is the exact cart I saw, all right? And they were covered with like 6 to 10 on each row of these clay pots right here. And these clay pots had an orange serrated leaf here and a green serrated leaf there, all right? And they had a little cactus thing in them. It looks like this, okay? And they were all stacked on here. And I'm observing because I've got to escape and tell people where the heck I am. Because what are they going to do? Kill me in the desert or something? I had no idea. But I was really panicked about it. So I really got mad and I started to yell at them saying, listen, I'm supposed to be in surgery right now. Who the F do you think you are? Blah, blah, blah. I mean, I really kind of lost it. And this, I like to say I hurled some very colorful epithets at them. But that's an understatement. I mean, I think I hurled everything I knew, and I think some I didn't know. And I know I hurled some in a few other languages too that I didn't realize I knew. So it was really amazing, And so that's when he actually got really mad at me, and he pointed a bony finger in my face, and he lit something from one of the pots on fire. He took it and started mashing it up, and he lights it on fire, and he's wafting the smoke at me and says, "Breathe." And I didn't want to. I said, "Oh, what is that? That smells like pot. And I'm not going to breathe this crap. I don't do that, you know." So he said, "Breathe," and he yelled it right in my face. And I mean, you have no choice. After a while, you have to. And now the whole room is filled with this smoke. So I started breathing, and it actually calmed me down. And it turned out it was actually peyote. When I looked up the cactus later, this is what I saw. This little cactus is what I saw in that pot, and I looked it up, and it was this cactus. It was peyote, which is a Native American drug that's used like we use cannabis, like pot and marijuana, So I thought that was a sort of an interesting thing. I didn't know anything about it. Now, at that time, the female woman who was upstairs, now I'm downstairs in this root cellar on the dirt, actually, leaning on the peat moss. She comes down and says, "Come on, we have to go." And I'm like, "Go where? This isn't where you're going to kill me?" And the guy just says, "You're going to have to pay attention to us, okay?" So they picked me up and they dragged me out to a car. This was a modern day thing. He was wearing blue jeans with a hemp belt, and I couldn't see her, so I can't tell you what she was wearing. And he had like a t-shirt on with nothing on it. And when I looked at the car, the car was actually a 1974 Dodge Charger. How I know that, I can't tell you other than I recognized this hubcap on the car. I'm not a car guy, but I know that hubcap. And this was my view, actually. I was looking down because they're dragging me, and I couldn't turn my head or anything. So as I'm looking down, I see this part. I go, "That's a 1974 Dodge Charger hubcap. How do I know? I built a robot, okay? And I put one of those on the robot. Here it is over here on the right, okay? So this robot, which does trade show stuff, okay, we put one of those on him as a decoration, an in-joke, something that only we would understand, or car people would understand. So, but that was what I saw. And when they set me in the car, they actually put me down in front of the back seat. So I was lying on the hump that goes between. It was really uncomfortable. But when I looked up at the edge, all right, I noticed that there was a map on the left side, which I couldn't tell if it was a New Mexico map at all. It probably was, and then a distributor cap, an old distributor cap from a car engine on the right. And I was trying to see where I was, right, see if I could see the map and understand where the heck I was. And then they drove away from the house, and as they drove away, I could tell it was a dirt road. It certainly wasn't paved. It was a very uneven ride, bumpy as heck. And I saw dust coming up through the back window. So I knew that there was a lot of dust, and there's little windows on the side and the back, and I could see dust coming up from there. And I really felt like a future murder victim. I really did. And I was, like I said, a bit panicked. And this is the sunset that I could see through the window, not the sunset because I couldn't move anything, but that's approximately what I saw. It was really a gorgeous sunset. And as I noticed when they drove from the house, they went down this dirt road, and I could see every now and then I could see some buildings pass by through those small windows. And they look kind of like this. All right. This was like an old dilapidated building. Then there was another one that looked like this. And this one, they stopped and pulled into it. And this door just goes up like the normal door. But the one that they pulled in didn't do that. It went like this. The whole door flipped upwards. It was sort of an old-fashioned door, yet it's modern day. And when they pulled in, the whole interior of this shop that I was in smelled like old tools, gasoline, and oil. It was really, and car exhaust. It was really sickening and made me sick to my stomach, And so this is kind of what the interior looked like. It had all these gear, all these shop tools and everything, older style tools. And we stayed there for 15 minutes. And then the female Native American comes back and says, okay, it's coming now. We have to go. What's coming? What are you doing? What are you talking about? I had no idea what they're talking about. What is that you're talking about? She wouldn't tell me, And they moved me to a car that looks surprisingly very much like this one. This is an El Camino. I don't know if you have these cars down there, but this is one of the cars they have here. Older, classic. And it was primer gray everywhere. And it had a rusty bed like this. The only difference was that on the left side of my leg, they put me in there, and they had my head leaning against this window. My body was sitting here. My legs were coming down to the tailgate here. So I was sitting in there like that on that side of that back row, that back seat, back opening. And on the left side of my leg, I saw a crushed Quaker State oil can. And at the end, in between my 2 feet, there was a sticker on the tailgate that said STP, which is a oil company, right? And then on my left, on my right, on the right side of my leg, was an empty old gas can, much like this one, but not. It was just red. It didn't have any writing on it. And it had a metal spout coming out of here. And it was on its side. And so I was hoping it was empty because otherwise I'm thinking, oh, they're going to kill me and burn my body in the desert. I really didn't know what they were doing. So it was a freaky thing. So they exited this whole garage, and now I'm in the back of this car, and they're driving so fast that I feel it's a road like this one. It's a road like this, and it felt like the car was bouncing so much I was going to fall right out, and I really thought I was going to fall out. So I'm screaming, hey, yeah, I'm going to fall out. I can't hold on to anything. I'm just bouncing, So I also noticed at the same time that beautiful sunset I showed you before was fading. It was getting dull and not very interesting at all anymore. We drove by a building that had a sign like this on it, Quaker State Oil, kind of like the can that was to my left. And so I said, okay, that makes sense. Okay, maybe they're getting their oil from here. This will be a clue for the police to try and locate these people. I was just trying to figure it all out. And then we pulled past what's called a cattle guard. It's a striated metal obstruction in the road that cattle don't like to walk across, and it keeps the cattle kind of penned in on one side of the road. And we went down into an arroyo, which is a little ditch, and we pulled in there, and I could smell. It was under like a little. Now you're under like a little you're under the road. Okay, the car's under the road now. You come down this arroyo, and now you're under the road. And I could see out of the corner of my eye these flashing yellow construction lights. And they were right to the extreme left of my vision, and I couldn't really see anything beyond that. Or, but I could smell the musty concrete. And then the female Native American yells, "Okay, here it comes. We have to go now." I'm like, "Here what comes? What are you talking about?" I was really getting mad. And the kid, before he jumps in the car, he looks at me and he says, "You have to follow our lead from now on. You have to follow our lead." I go, "Follow your lead where? What are you doing?" He goes, "Follow our lead." And he just gets in the car and they drive off again, now decidedly faster and more violently than before. And now we go racing down this road again. And I really didn't like the ride. That's putting it mildly. And then what they did was they actually turned off the side of the road and skidded to the side. And by skidding to the side, I could just see, by looking, gently to the left, not extreme left, but gently to the left, I could see where the sun was in the sky. And it actually had a dark object in front of it, much like this. I created this in Photoshop to kind of indicate what I saw. This is what I saw. There's the sun. There's the drab sunset. And there's this black thing covering the sun. I had no idea what that was. And then, the kid was now very nervous. He comes over to me and he hands me this big gun. I'm like, "What are you doing?" He puts it actually on my lap, and he puts the barrel down like this. So it's actually on my right thigh and the handle's on my left thigh. And I go, "What are you doing? I could blow my leg off." And he takes it and he turns it the other way. So the barrel's facing up. And he goes, "You feel better now?" I go, "Well, no, I mean, why you put a gun in my lap?" He goes, "You're going to use it." I said, "Are you serious?" I said, "That's very funny considering I can't even move. And I have my hand, I can't move my hands." I said, "How am I going to use it?" And the woman says something in Navajo, and I couldn't understand her. And the kid comes over and says, "Yeah, she's right. You're pretty dense." I go, "Why are you dense? I mean, give me a break. I mean, I've been kidnapped out of the hospital. I'm supposed to be in life-saving surgery right now. Who the hell do you think you are?" He goes, "You're following our lead." He says, we're trying to help you. Okay. I'm like, I don't get it. Well, finally the woman just starts yelling, "Now, now, now." And they started shooting at it. They had guns. And the kid's shooting, and he turns to me, and I see him just to my left side. And he looks at me and he goes, "Shoot this thing, shoot it." I go, "How am I supposed to do that?" And he just takes a moment, runs over, puts his hands on the side of the car, looks right into my face, and he screams, "It's symbology. Just follow our lead." And I'm like, whatever. So I start shooting at it, in my mind. Bang, bang, bang. And as I said, bang, 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 I saw 3 things fall away from it. Whoa. It was like a 1-to-1 correlation. So I went bang, and a 4th one fell. So I started going bang, 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 and then the rest of them fell. And then finally, it started breaking apart to the point where I could start to see this beautiful sunset coming back. It's like, wow, what the heck is this? This is really strange. Now, in spite of what's going on, I'm actually truly intrigued at this point. Still worried, still terrified by what they're trying to do to me or whatever. But I realize now that maybe the beautiful sunset that came back was something that was the result of the shooting, and how does that fit? What's going on? Where's the science here? Does science explain any of this? And the answer is no, it doesn't. So, and by the way, New Mexico does not have saguaro cactus like you see here. I took this photo in Arizona. Okay. And so you don't have these in New Mexico, just so you know. So I didn't know anything except when the kid came back to me. This is the first time I saw that he had teeth, because he was no longer like, he was smiling, big smile. In fact, his teeth looked like they were too big for his face. And he looked at me and he goes, "You're going to be all right, And I said, "Why are you doing this to me? Why me?" And the woman said something else in Navajo that I didn't understand. And the kid snickers a little bit. First time I heard him laugh, like that. And he goes, "Oh, she's right." He goes, "We do this because you're a healer, and we do this for our healers." I go, "Very funny. If I was a healer, then why am I here in the first place? He goes, that's not how it works. He goes, you have some growing to do. You have some growing to do. And I went, okay. And I asked him his name, and he goes, he wouldn't be able to pronounce it. He wouldn't be able to pronounce it. So it was kind of a strange situation. So now I'm in the back of this El Camino. The beautiful sunset's back, and they're walking away. I go, hey, are you going to bring me back? What's going on? And the kid looks at me and says, you were a real pain in our butts, basically. He said, and now I did think I was abducted, but maybe it wasn't for the reasons I thought. And I said, how am I going to get back? And the woman says again something in Navajo, and he comes back to me and he says, she's saying that you really are very dense. I go, what do you mean? He goes, because you never left. What? And then he walks away. And the next thing you know, I'm in the hospital again, and I'm hearing doctors say we're going to put him in a medically induced coma, and we're going to see if he'll survive. We don't know if he's going to survive. Now, the kid had just told me moments earlier in my mind, you're going to be all right. He put the bony finger in my face. He said, you're going to be all right, right? Do you realize you're going to be all right? And I went, yeah, I think I will. He goes, yeah, no matter what happens, understand you're going to be fine. Okay. So with that's what I remember seeing the doctors or hearing the doctors say to me, we're going to put him in a coma. And well, that would have worked great, except for the fact that I was awake during this coma. For 1 week, I was wide awake, and they thought I was under, and they're talking about me and saying things that you don't want to hear doctors say when you're in a coma. Okay. Like my family was on this side of me and the doctor's on this side of me, and across my body in the bed, he's saying, well, at best, we think he'll be a quadriplegic and blind if he wakes up. So you might want to prepare for that. The CAT scan shows that his visual center is all but gone. He had a number of things that hit it really hard, clots that struck it, and basically we don't expect that he'll be able to see at the very least. And I'm sitting there thinking, wait a minute, I'm fine. I'm kicking around inside and thinking, hey, you see, watch me, look, I'm kicking. And of course I heard nothing. So I realized, and I got no response. So I realized, okay, that's me. And then I thought, you know what? I can work with this. I know I'm going to be okay. I know I'll figure out how to make this work. So during the week, and I was in this coma, I started working on a circuit that could go to certain parts of my brain. And all I had to do was somehow communicate to a neurologist where I wanted you to put this circuit. And I could communicate. I had seen research that showed that if they went to a certain part of a person's mind, they could reproduce the thing that person was seeing with their eyes, literally by tapping the information directly from the brain. So I thought, hey, maybe in a year or so, they'll be able to do that with me, but I've got to get this basic flow chart of this circuit done. So during the week that I was in this coma, I would put it away when I would get tired, and I would let my brain relax and sleep. And when I would come back, I'd open the box and pull it out again, and I would pick up right where I left off. It was all there. On top of that, in the coma, I was like a disembodied head. It was like a head in a jar. There was no body to deal with. Okay, it was just a head as far as my brain was concerned. So without all those distractions, I had perfect recall of every moment ever in my life. It was so easy. It was pitiful. And I thought, wow, this is incredible. I remember when I was 4. I remember that. I remember when I stubbed my toe there. I remember how nasty it looked when I broke the nail on my big toe, blah, 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 all this crap. I remember falling off the pool and landing on my face and knocking out some teeth that had to be surgically put back in. I remember all that. I remember the sound. I remember falling. I remember where I hit in the ground. I remember the kids in the pool laughing at me when I did it. all these things. I mean, and that was traumatic. I also remember all the minor things that I did too. I remember everything was there, all of it. But on the day that they were waking me, at least in their minds, I knew that it was coming because they said so. Okay, we're going to try and bring him out of the coma now. I was like, oh, it's about time. I mean, has it been 5 days so far? And as soon as I started reconnecting, as soon as the arms and legs started reconnecting with the brain, that circuit I was building, it was vanishing, and I could not get it. And I kept yelling, put me back. I've got to get this. Put me back. Neurology needs to see this. Put me back. And I was mad. And I'd still be coming out more and more. And finally, I was trying to get back in there. And I finally had to just, look forward effectively in my mind and say, okay, it's gone. And along with it went to 100% recall. That all went too, which is sort of an interesting medical finding, I think, because I think if we can figure out a way to remove the attention of the brain to everything else, we probably could do that again and make it work for us, as opposed to that's just a thought. So when I finally was awake, the doctor comes in and he says to me, okay, I want to tell you what happened. We made an agreement. Now, I couldn't see him. I was in fact blind. Actually profoundly blind. I could see nothing. And that's hard, How do you describe what a blind person sees? Now, my blindness was probably different than the blindness that someone who never had eyes might experience. But what I saw was a gray wall with no variation. All right, just a gray wall. And when the doctor came in, I could tell he was near me because I could feel the heat from his face. When he was about a foot away, foot and a half away, I could feel the infrared radiation from his face radiating onto my face. And I thought at that point, oh, that's interesting. Other senses really do kick in when you miss some, and I was just doing a scientific analysis. Now, why could I do that in the face of being blind? And by the way, I was a quadriplegic too, actually. So how in the face of all that would I be able to do that? I was able to do that because I knew I was going to be all right. And the reason I knew was because they told me so. A totally unscientific approach. My science goes right out the window. All right. But I knew I was going to be okay. And the doctor said, well, when we actually started your heart, there was this big clot at the surgical site and it got away from us. And, quite frankly, he says, had that lodged in your brain, we wouldn't be having this conversation. He says, the reason you're here is because for some reason it broke up into millions of pieces. And that's why you're here.
Wow.
I could not say anything. I was trying to, but I had a trach. So all he heard was, he couldn't hear me going, oh, I know what that was. I know what that was. Okay. That was the metaphor of the gun. That, at least in my mind, I didn't know for sure. But think about that. I thought, wow, that's amazing. And my first thought was, okay, so I can't see, I can't move, but I'm going to be all right. Okay. I think I can figure out a way how to make my brain work again. And that's what I did. I started to think about this during the whole time that I was in the rehab hospital. And during the coma, when they said, at best we think he'll be a quadriplegic and blind, I started to think about ways to make my brain work again. I believe in the plastic brain. I believe that it's not, this neuron goes here and no other neuron can go there. I don't believe that for a minute. I think that things can be repathed, and the neural pathways are flexible. And I'm actually proof, right? I mean, I have 99% of my sight right now, maybe even more, and I have 100% of my motion back. And I got it back through this process that I'll share with you. And I actually have the attention of a number of heavy duty neurologists and the cardiac surgeon who worked on me. he's gone on. He's written it. He made a written statement to the fact that he thinks that this is something that we have to pay attention to. It's not something that I can do. It's something we can all do, and just have to know it. Now, when I was in the rehab hospital, I told my boys about the vision, which I really hesitated once they took the trach out. And to be on the lookout for validations of their heritage when they left that day. Okay, so my oldest son he was working at the time for a landscaper, and he needed new boots. So he went to a company to get boots and, a store. And the guy said, well, we only have one pair that can do everything you're asking, the waterproof, not allow the leakage, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, okay, well, what boots are they? And that's my son, Gabriel Galileo. And that's his middle name, Galileo. And it turned out they were Chippewa, which is a Native American tribe. And then my son, Hunter, Orion, again, his real name, when he left that day, he's walking down the hall and he sees this very painting. He took a picture of it. This is the picture. Okay. And now what's interesting about this is he came back the next day, and I couldn't read my phone. I couldn't read text yet. I knew I would be able to, but I couldn't at that time. But when he came back the next day, he wanted to tell me about it. And he went to look for the painting in the hallway that he saw it in. It was gone. And he went to someone and said, hey, where's that painting of the Indian guy that was in the hallway, of this Native American guy? And the lady that was curating the art display that was there said, I don't remember any Native American painting. Well, there it is. That's the exact painting. That is the photo of the painting that he took. That's the only real image in those boots. That's the only real, these two images, the only real ones that weren't borrowed for purposes of telling the story. So that kind of seated in their minds that there was something really odd going on, Now, since then, in the rehab hospital, when I was in the rehab hospital, the doctors told me, the doctor came in when I first got there, June 15th, 2015. He walked in on the 16th because I got in the evening of the 15th. And he goes, hello, my name is Dr. Soltis. That was his name, Soltis. And he said, he introduced himself and said he's the head of this, that, and the other. And he goes, you're going to be with us for about 8 to 10 weeks. I understand you've had a rather severe assault in your brain. You had a lot of clots. Those are strokes, basically. And I had 8 major strokes on the operating table. And he said, you're going to be with us for 8 to 10 weeks. And hopefully you'll get some mobility back. I don't know. We'll have to see what you can get back. And I know that your visual center has been hit pretty hard. We're hopeful maybe you'll get some of that back. Not sure. But, to be honest, things that looks worst of all. And he goes, so you'll be with us for a while. He goes, but we'll take good care of you. And I said, well, that doesn't work for me. Now, they had taken the trach out. And of course, it didn't come out that way. Because as I discovered, I also had to learn how to talk again. What came out was, well, that doesn't me. That was me saying that doesn't work for me. And luckily for him, having treated so many people, he could translate my gibberish speak. And he goes, well, what do you mean? I said, I have to do a talk in Los Angeles, in California, in September at a conference. It was June. 3 months later, I was expecting to be in Los Angeles doing a talk. And I literally heard this sound, if you can hear it. He went, it was a visible, audible gasp. I couldn't see him. I just heard it. He walked closer to the bed, and I could feel him. He grabbed the rail of the bed, and he says, Mr. Dantonio, do you realize what happened to you? Now he's thinking cognitive disorder. He doesn't remember things, or he's thinking he's better off than he is. And I said, yeah, I had some strokes. Yeah, I said, but I'm gonna be okay. I'll be out of here in no time. And he goes, wow, well, That's a good attitude to have, and let's hope it works. And you could tell he wasn't really convinced. Well, the bottom line is that June 15th, 16th, I saw the doctor in that rehab facility to look at my eyes, and he said, yes, you are very profoundly blind. I don't know how we're going to get that back. I can only hope that maybe. Well, I knew I was going to get my sight back. And the reason was because I had figured out a way to make it work. And this is where neurology fails us. And this is part of all this. So I know this is now beyond the whole paranormal side of things, but maybe it's not. Because what I did was I asked the nurse to set up on my laptop Netflix in my face with my chin on the tray table. Okay. So I could see the screen, and see is kind of a misnomer because I couldn't see, I could hear. But my eyes were working. My eyes were seeing something on the screen. It was my brain that couldn't translate it. So imagine this. It's like a bunch of needles going to your brain. Okay, all this information, needles, little spikes of light, all go into your brain, and they're stabbing you. It hurt. It was painful. It was so painful, it made me tear up. It gave me migraines. My eyes were bloodshot. The guy in the room with me basically said, can you make him shut that TV off or shut off? He said TV, but it wasn't TV. It was my laptop. Okay. And what they did instead was moved him out and left me in the room. And I had a room now to myself, and I kept that on, and I kept watching it day and night. I forced my face to be looking in that direction because I could feel the heat of my laptop screen, and I always knew where it was. Well, it took a day, and in one day, I could start to see shadows again. Shadows. Okay, I'm not blind anymore. Yahoo! I can see shadows. Little victories. That was my motto. Little victories. Well, then I said, okay, this is the way. This is going to help, because then as time progressed, a couple days later, I went to the eye doctor again. You went to them every couple days there at this place, and I went into his office. I didn't go in; they wheeled me in, and they leave me in the wheelchair, strapped in, all trussed up. My arms are like this. They don't move. And he says, "Well, how are you doing today, Mr. Dantonio?" And I said, "Well, I'm fine, Dr. Shafiq." That was his name, Dr. Shafiq. I said, "Can you put the eye chart up?" And he was silent. And he goes, "What? Can indulge me a moment, will you? Put the eye chart up." And he did. And of course, I could see nothing. But you know what I could see? I could see the square of white light, roughly square, that was coming from that little panel, that illuminated panel on the wall. Okay. Now, I said, I can see the square of white light. You can? That's a day and a half ago that you couldn't see anything. How can you see now? I go, I'll share with you how I'm doing this. I said, I'm going to get my sight back. Before I leave this hospital, my sight's going to be back. I can tell you right now, I know how to do it. And it was almost like I was on a mission, and I knew it couldn't fail. It was weird. And so anyway, another couple days pass, and I go back to him again. And he puts the eye chart up again. He goes, "You want to tempt fate?" He goes, "We'll try it again." I go, "Yes, let's put it up." Dr. Shafiq puts it up there. And I've never heard a full-grown man squeal in a weird way, but this guy did that, because I said, "Okay, the top line is Apeotf, Apeotf." He goes, "What?" "Oh, that's right. That's right. That's amazing. What you do? That's over 1,000%. How you do this? How you did that?" And he was stumbling for words. And I'm like, I said, "You sound as bad as me." And he laughs. He goes, You are doing a remarkable improvement. How are you doing this?" And I told him, I said, "Listen, when you go to the doctor, you want them to give you a drug to make the pain go away. But in order to fix these types of problems, you have to embrace the pain, something no one wants to do. That's how this is working. And I don't know how much vision I'll get back, but I have to embrace the pain. So that's why my eyes are probably bloodshot." He goes, "They are." I said, "And that's why I have a wicked headache." "Oh, you do?" "Yes, it's a migraine. It's been going for days." But you have to endure that pain, because you're actually forcing the brain to make a change. That is the key here. force the brain to react. When you stick your finger in a candle flame, your brain is the reason you pull it away. It's an evolved feature to save the organism. Okay? So use that as a weapon to heal. That's all I'm saying. Okay? I defy you to leave your finger in a candle flame. Oh, some people go, ah, and then they pull it away. Ow, and then they like, it hurts. Okay? Pain was designed to keep us away from danger, right? You feel pain, back away. Well, in this particular case, especially with strokes, all right, I'm too young to have strokes. For crying out loud, there's no strokes in my family, but this was a surgically induced stroke. It was very different. The clot was from the repair job in the heart. Well, when that happens and you have this pain, the brain is forced to reroute. The brain is forced to make heads or tails of what it's getting, these needles of information from the optic nerves that are coming in and hurting 24/7 when you're staring at the screen. The brain has to figure out what to do. So what's it do? It makes a new path. It makes something work that wasn't intended to do that particular job, perhaps. And my sight is at 99% and above right now. And it came back within 4 months of the surgery. Now, I should say it came back to 95% 4 months from the surgery. And that last 4%, I've been taking it easy and letting it heal on its own to see what would happen. I was happy with the 95. Now, my arms and my legs didn't work. So I was really happy that I was no longer a blind quadriplegic. I was a sighted quadriplegic. And I told my nurse, whose name was Linda Hunter, I said to Linda, well, now I can see, Linda. So now I'm sighted. And that's a good thing. She goes, well, that's fantastic, Mr. Scruffy. She called me that because I didn't shave for weeks, obviously. So I was all scruffy. So when the doctor came in and he talked to me, he said, okay, we're going to put you on this regimen. I hear from the eye doctor that you're getting some sight back. I said, yes, I'm going to get a lot more of it back. And he goes, wow, that's really kind of unheard of. I go, not really. It should be something that's in a textbook. Okay. I really believe that. And he goes, well, you keep up the good work, kind of appeasement. Well, then I had Linda put the nurse put my palms up, and I had her put a ball in my hand. Okay. Just a little red rubber ball. Because they had these in the exercise gym. They had these squeeze balls for people to work on grip and stuff in this rehab hospital. So she put it in my palm, and it felt like liquid fire. It burned. It felt like I was on fire. And at first, I was like, ah, and she took it out. And she goes, did that hurt? I go, oh, yeah, really, really bad. And she goes, okay, well, I'm not going to do it. And I go, no. You have to do it. In fact, when you put it in, press it into my palm and squeeze my fingers around it because I can't do that myself. And she goes, are you sure? I go, yes, please. She did. And when she did that, I can't tell you what that felt like. The pain was absolutely unbearable. And that's exactly what was on order. That's what this doctor ordered, basically, okay? Because that pain made the brain go into overdrive. And the brain said, oh, this is killing me. This is painful. We have to really deal with this as soon as possible. And when the ball was in my hand, she left my hand. My fingers relaxed. Okay, so the ball was just perched there. Now, of course, I couldn't move, so my hand wasn't going anywhere, and it just stayed there. And she walked out of the room, and I was thinking, should I just have her take the ball out? No. No, don't say a word. I'm just not going to say a word. So she walked out, and she was gone for hours, right? And that ball's in my hand, burning. And it affected the same nerves that say you're being burned alive. Okay. I really struggled with that. But then when she came in a few hours later, she goes, are you ready to have me remove that ball, Mr. Scruffy? I said, yeah, maybe. And she goes to my hand and she picks up the ball. And what she sees is this. Okay, if you can see my little picture, all of a sudden she saw this. My index finger on my left hand twitched. It went like that, just like that. And I was like, oh, And now I could, because I had worked on my eyes, I could sort of see that my finger twitched. And I said, did my finger just twitch? And she goes, well, let's see. She puts the ball back in my hand, and my index finger goes like that and twitches again. And it knocks the ball a little bit, not out of my hand, but knocks the ball. She goes, oh, holy cow. She goes, that's working, Mr. Scruffy. I go, I know it is. I said, you see, Linda, now I'm a paraplegic, not a quadriplegic. Little victories. Okay. So same thing with this hand. Now, this, by the way, led to this, which led to this, which led to the wrist, which led to the elbow, the shoulder, the neck. I could turn my head finally. And then the ball in this hand led to this all working again and finishing all the rest of the muscles to be able to move the whole upper body. And that led to my core muscles, my pelvis area. And now my feet. Okay. I thought, okay, I'm a paraplegic. I could deal with that. But I'm going to walk again. So incidentally, the amount of time, by the way, that this was it was June 17th of 2015 when I started to get my sight back, and it was around June 18th or 19th when I could see enough that I could see my hand. Okay. And it was around June 21st or 22nd when I've got all my mobility up in the upper body back really rapidly. And if you're willing to go through the pain and embrace that pain, okay, then you can repair your brain, you know. So I noticed that since I had my pelvis, I could arch my pelvis or push my pelvis a little bit, and the ball of my foot would hit the bottom of the bed. Searing pain. Like, whoa. And of course, I pulled it back. Like, no, push it and push it and push it. It hurts so bad. And I was like, this is what I need. This is exactly what I need. So I kept pushing on the bottom of the bed. And my left foot eventually just literally got so fatigued that I literally couldn't push anymore. The muscles were shaking. Okay, I couldn't push anymore. Well, my son came in that evening, and he basically looked down at my legs, which were non-functional to that point, and he goes, "Dad, your left foot just moved." You betcha. This is working. And so I showed him. I said, "Yeah, I've been pushing it into the bed at the bottom, and that pain has caused the brain to reroute the pathways, to make me be able to move that foot out of the way." That was the key. Well, anyway, the bottom line is that I got my left foot and my ankle and my left leg and the pelvis and the right leg the same way. And the next thing you know, I'm in a wheelchair, getting from the bed to the wheelchair by myself. That was June 24th. Okay. I was in there less than 10 days earlier. Okay. As a blind quadriplegic. Right. Mm-hmm. And now I'm able to actually move the wheelchair by myself and move myself to the sink, brush my own teeth. Okay. I can't put on my own shoes. Okay. At this point. Okay. That coordination wasn't quite there. But suffice it to say that by the time July rolled around, July 2nd, actually, Dr. Soltis comes in and says, "Hello." That's how he greeted you every morning. It really became annoying having to hear, "Hello." It's like, oh, whatever. Okay. And I go, "Hello, Dr. Soltis." He says, "Wow." He goes, You're talking much better." And, oh, yeah, I said, "Oh, yeah, about that. I asked the nurse for a mirror. Once I fixed my eyes," I said, "I had to see what my mouth was doing, so I knew what was wrong. And once I fixed my hands, I could move my lips to the right position and tell them and say, that's where they're supposed to be, brain. So when I say the word words, at WORDS, that was a stickler. It kept coming out with. So I was going words, and pursing my lips like this. And when I did that, okay, and again, it was not easy because it was hard enough to lift my hand up, but never mind. But the mirror showed me what was wrong, and I was able to then correct it. And when my brain got to the right position, I swear to you, it was like it said, "Oh, that's what it is. I know this position." And boom, withs came out words. and it was fixed. I mean, it was that quick. So what I'm getting at is the brain has the ability to fix itself. All right. And this is something that is part of the human condition. We can all do this. Everybody can do this. This isn't just a feel-good story. Okay. This was born out of the fact that I was desperate to get better, and on July 3rd, Dr. Soltis comes in. Hello. Right. And he goes, well, we are actually discharging you. You'll be home for the 4th of July. And I was like, okay, fantastic. I'm ready. He goes, yeah. He goes, I honestly don't know how you did it. And I said, Dr. Soltis, I've been trying to tell you, okay, the patients come here to avoid pain. They have to embrace the pain, especially if it's a stroke, because the brain has a critical window within which to heal. And that window has to happen, right away. The sooner you get to it, the sooner it'll take. That's why you're discharging me tomorrow. And that's why I'll be home for the 4th of July. You said I was going to be here 8 to 10 weeks. He goes, well, typically people are. I said, that's because they don't know how to fix their brain. You have to pass this along. You have to make sure people understand that to fix your brain, you need to embrace the pain. Okay? Like I say, train the brain with pain. It's simple. Everybody can remember it. Train the brain with pain, especially for these kinds of things. And so July 4th, I was home. It was strange. I was walking on gravel in my sister's sloped backyard with a walker. Okay. And of course, everybody's so nice. Oh, he's going to be in a walker for the rest of his life now and all that. I'm like, no, I can hear you. My ears are working better than you imagine. I said, no, I'm going to be walking, and I'm going to be in Los Angeles in September speaking at that conference. And I was. Okay.
Oh.
So what is the lesson? The lesson is that our brains are amazing and they can heal. And what's that have to do with paranormal stuff? It has to do with the fact that everything I shared with you about this vision taught me about this. Okay. And in this next slide, this is me with Dr. Stelzer, the heart surgeon. This is a year later. He had moved all his furniture because he thought that this paraplegic, quadriplegic guy was going to be wheeled in a wheelchair. And I came bounding in. Hey, how you doing, doc? He's like, whoa. And I shared with him a couple months ago. I told him a couple months ago, I said, how I healed and stuff. And I explained it in detail from a perspective that would make sense to a medical doctor, right? And he goes, more people have to hear this, because I think, and this is a doctor now, cardiothoracic surgeon, okay, said to me, he goes, you reach places in the brain that most people don't reach, and thus they never get better. And I said, I'm going to help people get better if I can. I don't care if it's my name or someone else's book, as long as someone writes about it. Get this information out there. I don't know if you have TED Talks down in Australia. Do you have TED Talks?
Yes.
I was nominated to do a TED Talk about this, about the neurological recovery in the brain. Well, darn it all, I'm an astronomer. I want to do an astronomy TED Talk. But instead, I might have to do this neurology recovery thing, which is fine. He wrote a beautiful email to me a couple of weeks ago that explaining how he felt that what I did was something that most people can't do. And I am quick to say, but most people can do it. They just don't know it's there. They don't know they have that capability. They think, okay, this happened to me, and now I just have to just endure and wait for something. No, you don't. When I went, I wasn't 8 to 10 weeks, and the doctor said 8 to 10 weeks plus a year or two of recovery at home. The doctor told me, actually, at the rehab hospital, Dr. Soltis. And I said, no, that doesn't work for me. And when he discharged me on the 3rd, he comes in, he goes, hello. Of course, by now you know that. But he goes, so we're sending you home today? I go, yep. He goes, I see you're already dressed. I go, yep. And he goes, I have a feeling you're going to be at that talk. I said, yep, I sure am. And I flew alone to Los Angeles. I had no problem navigating. Everything was fine. again, born out of a desperation to get better, you'll find a path. And that's what this was. So you can say it's my journey, but it's not. It's our mutual journey. We can all do everything I said here. We can all do it. And it just is a matter of the willingness, the willingness to embrace that pain, and I just think that it's something that I could never explain in a million years beyond how I'm doing it now. But at this point, I mean, that was it, literally the last thing to mention. Okay, so I know it's sort of long-winded of me and all that, but if anyone's still awake, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Wow, that's amazing, Mark. What an amazing story! An amazing story of healing, and I don't know. I think it's I think it really brings to light what the nature of reality is. Like,
Yeah.
That we can heal. Yeah, it's just, no, it's really touched me really deeply.
Well,
Wow.
I think that everybody can heal.